Have you ever had your personal information exposed online? Even if you haven't experienced it directly, people have always been fearful of gossip. We're concerned about being seen with certain individuals or in particular places. We fret about what we've said after a few too many drinks. We worry that others will talk. However, with the rise of the internet, these fears have become even more intense, and the possibility of exposure is now more real than ever. Unfortunately, Peter Thiel has faced the very nightmare we all dread. He knows what it's like to wake up and find that your most private secrets have been made public. This is the story of how he decided to fight back. Chapter 1: Thiel's privacy was violated. Peter Thiel is gay. So what? It shouldn't matter, right? However, for someone whose sexuality is a key part of their identity, it can sometimes bring unfortunate consequences. For instance, they may face discrimination or feel compelled to keep their sexual orientation hidden from family, friends, or business associates. While some individuals can be openly out, others lack that freedom, which means each person has the right to choose when, how, and with whom to share their story. No one should ever be outed without their consent. Unfortunately, that's what happened to Peter Thiel. One morning in 2007, he woke up to find a blog post by Gawker Media titled, "Peter Thiel is totally gay, people." In that moment, his most personal secret was revealed to the entire internet. While this would be devastating for any gay person, for Thiel, it carried an even deeper significance. As the co-founder of PayPal, he was part of an industry, venture capital, dominated by straight, white, and male individuals who often favor entrepreneurs who remind them of themselves. As the article points out, this could be due to cautiousness at best, or prejudice at worst. Thiel, a private individual by nature, had numerous professional reasons for keeping his sexuality private. The fact that the article acknowledged this only made the violation worse, as it showed the author knew the potential harm Thiel could face and still chose to out him. So, who would do such a thing? Let's look closer at the blog and its creators. The blog in question was called Valleywag, which on the surface seemed like an innocent publication focusing on tech industry news. However, Valleywag was owned by Gawker Media, a company known for its gossip-driven content. Nick Denton, the founder of Gawker, had a penchant for leaking the secrets of public figures to generate buzz. He encouraged his team of bloggers to dig up dirt on celebrities, offering them hefty rewards for their efforts. While Denton's actions might make us question how someone could operate this way or why anyone would support it, the reality is that Denton's gossip-fueled platform attracted a large audience. By 2005, Gawker was earning $120,000 in monthly revenue, and by 2012, that number had skyrocketed to $40 million. Denton's targets typically included celebrities, wealthy individuals, and large corporations, so going after Peter Thiel didn't seem out of the ordinary. After all, despite PayPal's prominence, Thiel wasn't a household name. Denton probably didn't anticipate much backlash. But, as we'll see in the following chapters, he was gravely mistaken. Chapter 2: Does controversy make for bad journalism? As a general rule, the answer to that question is no. A skilled journalist can spark meaningful conversations on controversial topics without crossing ethical lines or causing harm. However, Nick Denton, with his vested interest in stirring up trouble, often pushed ethical boundaries in his pursuit of sensational stories, and his article about Peter Thiel was no exception. It's important to consider both Denton's questionable journalistic practices and the political climate of the time when assessing the impact of his actions. While the world has become more inclusive by 2020, that wasn't the case in 2007. Many states didn't even recognize gay marriage or civil partnerships back then, and executive orders banning discrimination based on sexual orientation or gender identity were still new. Thiel's privacy was invaded during a time when society was still openly hostile toward LGBTQ+ people. Given the circumstances, is it any wonder he was furious? How could anyone blame him for taking it personally, especially when, just months later, Gawker published more invasive content, including hidden photos of Thiel with his boyfriend and provocative rumors about his sex life? Nobody wants their private life spread across the internet, especially not someone in Thiel's position as the CEO of PayPal. While Thiel might have viewed this as a personal attack, for Denton and his team, it was simply business. Their personal feelings toward a target didn't matter as much as their desire to generate media buzz. The problem, however, was that their business was built on exploiting others' lives. Thiel was not okay with his life being ruined for the sake of sensationalism. As he learned more about Gawker's loose ethics, such as its proud history of leaking stolen material, like celebrity sex tapes, he began referring to them as the MBTO, which stood for Manhattan-based Terrorist Organization. He felt this name was fitting because, in addition to wreaking havoc on people's lives, Gawker used freedom of speech laws and journalistic protections as shields to avoid the consequences of their actions. But Thiel wasn't about to let them get away with it. Chapter 3: How to Pick a Fight with a Journalist. You've heard the saying, the pen is mightier than the sword, right? Peter Thiel knew just how true that was, which presented him with a unique challenge in his battle against Gawker. How do you fight back against someone who can destroy your life with just a few keystrokes? How do you take on an entity with the full weight of the media behind them? It took Thiel 4 years to figure out how to respond, spending the years between 2008 and 2011 carefully plotting his revenge. Under normal circumstances, his billionaire status might have given him an advantage, but it provided little protection from Gawker, who could hide behind the First Amendment and claim they were simply exercising their right to free speech. All the money in the world couldn't help when Gawker's legal defense was airtight. Worse yet, Thiel realized he couldn't shame Gawker into stopping. They thrived on drama and controversy. If he fought back, it would only fuel the scandal, making Gawker's platform even more successful. The more he thought about it, the more Gawker seemed invincible. But after 4 years of brainstorming, Thiel finally devised the perfect plan. He enlisted the help of a new business partner, known only as Mr. A, and together, they set up a shell corporation. This company would hire investigative journalists, lawyers, and fact-checkers, all with a single mission, to uncover dirt on Gawker. With journalists on his team, Thiel had unique access to Gawker's internal files, and they had the expertise to sift through them for any evidence that could help him take legal action. Thiel knew, however, that he couldn't take on Gawker simply based on the articles they had published or for a violation of freedom of speech. As much as he despised what Gawker had done to him, he understood that, technically, they hadn't broken any laws. But that didn't mean he couldn't find another angle to legally challenge them in court. Chapter 4: Opportunity Knocks. Thiel's plan was well thought out, but unfortunately, so was Gawker's defense. His team's investigation revealed that nothing was too shady or unethical for Gawker. They had no qualms about publishing illegally obtained sex tapes, releasing nude photos taken without consent, or spreading vicious rumors. They had taken great care to protect themselves legally, and despite combing through thousands of files, Thiel and his team found nothing they could use. For a while, it seemed like Gawker might get away with it. But then, in 2012, an unexpected opportunity arose through someone else's misfortune. That year, professional wrestler Hulk Hogan discovered that he had been secretly filmed having sex with his best friend's wife. Naturally, Hogan had no idea the tape existed and was stunned when it surfaced on Gawker's website. In an instant, his life and reputation were shattered, just as Thiel's had been. Like Thiel, Hogan initially tried to fight back quietly, sending Gawker a cease and desist letter through his lawyers. But when Gawker predictably ignored the request, Hogan escalated by filing a lawsuit. Hogan, like Thiel, realized that a case based on freedom of speech violations would never succeed. Instead, he focused on a more viable route, arguing that Gawker had violated his right to privacy. This approach was far more straightforward and could be proven, giving Hogan a real chance of winning. Thiel, seeing the potential in this legal strategy, instructed Mr. A to contact Hogan and ask if he would be interested in filing his lawsuit with the support of an anonymous third party. While this might seem counterproductive, how could someone seek justice in a lawsuit if their involvement is hidden? Thiel understood that revealing his hand could be risky. If Gawker found out he was behind the effort to bring them down, they would likely intensify their attacks on him. So, Thiel kept his identity concealed, quietly funding Hogan's lawsuit against Gawker and biding his time for the perfect moment to strike. Chapter 5: Pride Goes Before a Fall. In Gawker's case, the old adage, pride goes before a fall, proved to be dangerously accurate. Even with Hulk Hogan's lawsuit hanging over the company, Nick Denton remained largely unconcerned. Over the years, Denton had angered many celebrities and come out unscathed each time. To him, a lawsuit was as routine as changing socks. Despite Hogan's $100 million claim, Denton believed that Hogan would eventually tire of the drawn-out legal battle, get worn out by mounting legal fees, and back down. Denton had the advantage of a company that generated billions in revenue, which meant he could afford to fight lawsuits without it affecting his bottom line. His opponents, even those with millions, often couldn't keep up financially and eventually backed down due to the strain. But this time, Thiel's involvement changed the dynamic. Hogan, backed by another billionaire, was now just as financially resilient as Gawker itself. With Thiel's support, Hogan wasn't going to be intimidated or worn down by legal costs. As the case dragged on and was about to go to trial, Gawker realized that Hogan wasn't backing down. In a last-ditch effort to avoid a trial, Gawker offered to settle for a mere $10 million. But Hogan, knowing he could fight for far more with Thiel's backing, wasn't interested. The case proceeded to trial, and that's when Gawker's arrogance started to crumble. The trial was being held in Hogan's home state of Florida, not New York. Far removed from their familiar environment and fanbase, Gawker was now facing a jury of Hogan's Floridian peers. To the jury, Hogan was a local hero. Gawker, a media company they had likely never heard of, had no support. From the very start, it was clear that the jury was not going to side with the media outlet that had humiliated Hogan. The result was inevitable. In March 2016, the jury returned a swift verdict, awarding Hogan $140 million in damages. Chapter 6, Gawker's Collapse. Gawker may have had the funds to handle a lengthy lawsuit, but they couldn't afford both the legal battle and a $140 million settlement. The financial blow from the damages was enough to cripple the company, forcing them to declare bankruptcy. Gawker was finished. At first glance, this might seem like a perfect ending. Hogan and Thiel got what they wanted, justice was served, and Gawker's reign of terror came to an end. However, the story didn't quite have the neat conclusion one might expect. While Thiel had successfully kept his involvement in the case a secret during the trial, once Gawker's defeat was certain, he couldn't resist the urge to share his victory. Initially telling only a few close friends, it wasn't long before the details of his role became public, and the story exploded into international news. At first, this surge in media attention might not sound so bad. After all, the public would surely celebrate Thiel's role in bringing down a company that had hurt so many, right? But the response was far from what Thiel expected. Though many were no fans of Gawker, the media began to turn the story around. Gawker was suddenly seen as an underdog, an independent media outlet willing to challenge the establishment, even if it meant being controversial. In stark contrast, Thiel was painted as a billionaire with a personal vendetta, attacking free speech to satisfy his own grudges. Thiel, who thought he had done the right thing, was taken aback by the shift in public opinion. He believed he had acted justly, both for himself and for others harmed by Gawker's tactics. He thought of himself as a hero. From the author's perspective, Thiel was justified. While he may not have disclosed his involvement at first, he didn't break any laws. Unlike Gawker, he didn't engage in any underhanded or unethical behavior. He simply kept his identity hidden to preserve the integrity of Hogan's case and to ensure that an unethical company faced consequences. But, of course, when it comes to stories like this, everyone has an opinion. Everyone has their own perspective on what's right or wrong in a situation like this. So, what do you think? Was Thiel justified in going after Gawker? Was it acceptable for him to hide his role in the lawsuit? Is it okay to take down someone when you believe you're doing it for the greater good? You decide. Chapter 7, Final Summary. After a single blog post outed Peter Thiel and violated his privacy, the billionaire founder of PayPal spent 9 years and over $10 million taking down Gawker. Throughout this endeavor, Thiel demonstrated patience, creativity, ingenuity, and a strong commitment to ethics. His desire for justice wasn't just about getting back at Gawker for their personal attack on him, but also about helping others like Hulk Hogan, whose lives were unjustly affected by the media outlet's reckless behavior. In an era where conspiracy theories often revolve around aliens and secret societies, perhaps it's worth considering a shift toward conspiracies aimed at seeking justice. Maybe it's acceptable to work behind the scenes as long as the goal is to take down the real bad actors. But in the end, it's up to each individual to decide whether Thiel's actions were ethical. Regardless of your stance on his choices, one thing is certain: Thiel's crusade against Gawker makes for a captivating story.
I can hear you call my name. I can hear you call my name. can hear you call my name. Come to the table.